guys should see a little icon up on your left-hand side that says YouTube.
Yep.
And we are on. Icon up on your left-hand side that says YouTube. Oh. Johanna, I'm going to give you the host, make you the host. Where is she at? Johanna, you are the host.
Okay. Sounds good. Let me see. So everybody else is unmute all. So I'm going to go ahead and mute it, and then I'm going to actually unmute people when they are speaking. Is that correct? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then will I start it? I see that it's 9:25. We have 5 minutes. Do I just start talking in 5 minutes? Oh,
Yes.
did y'all see that Bill is on? He is, y'all did see that? Okay. He has his
I
hand.
saw the
raised.
deal. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to promote him to panelist, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right,
Okay.
yes.
And I'm sorry, you said I do just start talking in 5 minutes? I don't need to start anything?
No, you're good to go.
No, you're
Okay.
live.
Oh,
Yep.
okay, great.
Good morning. Can you all see me?
Can hear you, Bill.
Oh, I
Yes.
tried to turn my,
Oh, there you are.
Good morning.
good morning.
Let me check.
We are live streaming on YouTube right now too.
Hold on, guys. I think I need to get the mayor on. I think let me see.
You can hear that lady talking.
Let's see.
Who's that mayor?
Oh, there he is. Yeah, he hit the attendee one. Johanna, can you please promote the mayor to a panelist,
Yeah.
please?
Let's see where he is. Okay.
Thank you. There he is.
Joseph,
How you doing, sir?
where for art thou?
Right here.
Oh, there you are. Look at you. How's everything?
Very good. Very good. We're streaming right now on YouTube live and have a nice group.
I can see the participant numbers going up.
I'm not sure if one of the things that we should clarify is that on our YouTube channel, it's not on the homepage, but on the videos where people can watch it live.
On videos. So go to City of Santa Fe YouTube channel. And then it's on the videos portion.
Yeah, I think what I can do is I can text it over to you.
Okay. New. And it's under Santa Fe Economic Development Department, or what is it? What's the channel?
No, it's www.youtube.com/user/City of Santa Fe/videos. I just sent it in the chat.
Okay, City of Santa Fe /videos. Oh, okay, and that, yeah, everybody can see that. Okay. And then I think Bob had said the presentation will be sent out to people, right? I think.
What?
I was just remind myself, you said that the presentation was going to be sent out to all the
No,
folks that had
well, it's not
registered.
sent out. It'll be it'll be a PDF version that will
Oh,
be
okay.
posted.
It'll just be available. Okay.
But the video will be available on archive on the city's page, and that link
Okay.
people can share with it. It'll be public. It's public right now. And after the fact, if you give YouTube a little bit of time, they'll be able to watch the many languages that YouTube provide with subtitles. So they'll be able to
Oh,
actually
that's great. Okay.
listen to it. Yeah, so they can, watch it in Cantonese or Portuguese or whatever you want. They'll be able to access it that way with subtitles.
Oh, that's good.
Yep. Mhm.
Okay, I have 9:30. So you want to go ahead and get started?
Sure.
Yes,
Okay.
let's do it.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and mute everyone. And then I'll introduce the mayor and unmute you, Mayor.
Sounds good.
All right. Just see. Right. Okay, can everyone hear me? Okay, all right, great. Hi, good morning. Muy buen día a todos. My name is Johanna Nelson, and I am with the State Economic Development Department, and I've been invited to help host this webinar. And today this webinar is being put on by a collaborative effort between Santa Fe County, the City of Santa Fe, the SBA, and SCORE. So we're really happy that you're able to join us today to participate in some really good resource sharing about opportunities and options that are available to businesses that have been negatively impacted by COVID-19. And I do want to share with everyone that this webinar is being presented live on the city's YouTube channel right now. And Liz Camacho just sent the link that you can see in the chat feature. That what you do is go to YouTube and search City of Santa Fe /videos. And you can see this this presentation live, as well as it will be translated. You can translate it into many different languages. The presentation is going to be available afterward on the City of Santa Fe's website. That'll be archived and that'll be available in a PDF. And I do want to mention that questions are more than welcome. Please keep those questions coming. This is your chance to ask folks directly the questions that you have. So what you're going to do is put your questions into the question and answer box that's on the right hand of your screen. It should be, you should be able to see it there. Type your questions and we're going to culminate those and get to those, as many as we can, at the end of the presentation. So please keep those coming. If we aren't able to answer your question during this presentation, then we will we'll compile an FAQ and get that up on the city's website. So again, I want to thank you. I want to thank the host, the City of Santa Fe and SCORE and County for putting this on, and all the panelists. And without more delay, let's go ahead and get started. I want to introduce the mayor of the City of Santa Fe, Alan Weber. And let me unmute you, Mayor. 1 second.
There we go. Thank you, host, for unmuting me. And welcome to everybody. I'm looking at the number of participants continuing to climb on the little attendance chart below. I know that we've got something like 500 people who have signed up for this, and I hope everybody can attend. If you can't make it, or you know people who intended to be here but couldn't quite get together to be part of it, as you just heard, all of this information is going to be available after the event, and people can review it, pass it along, and make even more out of it. I am happy to be able just to say welcome before we get to the real meat of the meeting and the subject matter experts who are here to give us some help. But first, I want to say thank you to everybody who made this possible. This is a huge effort, but it's an important effort in collaboration, in creativity, in resiliency to bring people together. We know our first order of business in New Mexico is to keep people safe and to keep people healthy. And that's our first job. But we've seen the aftershocks from the COVID virus taking a serious toll on our economy, and particularly on our small businesses, the mom and pop businesses that are the backbone, the heart and soul of Santa Fe and of New Mexico. And so a collaborative effort like this really is critical to bring together the resources that are available to answer questions, to give direction, to indicate what's possible going forward, thanks to the money that will be forthcoming, the assistance from Washington, D.C., and then getting that out into the community. At the same time, the state's taking enormous steps going forward to help workers and businesses. The city has a similar series of offerings, the county. So I guess the important thing as we turn it back over to the program is to say thank you for everybody stepping up. We're all in this together. I think it's fair to say that at some level we are on the equivalent of a wartime footing. We're having to scramble, we're having to work collaboratively, we're having to be innovative and entrepreneurial as we deal with this very, very serious public health emergency followed by an economic aftershock. We're all fortunate to have tremendous subject matter experts on the program today, and they will bring the best information available for everybody to benefit from and then to share their updates on programs and resources and opportunities for small businesses to get the assistance that you all need to weather this very, very powerful storm that we're all in the middle of. For more information, our economic development team has put up a great website, altogethersantafe.org. So plug into that, stay in touch with each other, share best practices, work with your employees, and we're going to get through this, I'm convinced, stronger, smarter, tougher, and more resilient than ever. So thanks to everybody for your help. Kick it back to the host to lead us through the program. I'm looking forward to learning from it. I'm sure everybody else is. Great work. Thanks to everybody. Let's work together. We're going to make it. Take care.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for your leadership during this time right now. And I would like to next introduce Francesca De Palma, and she's with Constituent Services, the representative community liaison for the Santa Fe office for Senator Tom Udall. So Francesca, let me unmute you, and you should have audio and be ready to go.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the city putting this on. Right now, as we know, those of us that live in Santa Fe, we know how much we love our small businesses, but how important they are to our economy. So I'm going to do more of a broad brush overview of kind of how we've gotten here from the federal level on these loans and the financial assistance that there are. So there's basically now been 3 bills that are COVID related, and we kind of refer them to as COVID-1, COVID-2, COVID-3. COVID, in the first two COVIDs, we got more of an expansion of the regular SBA loans. So that would be the normal economic injury disaster loans. A lot of people started taking advantage of those early on, which was fantastic. More people, though, have heard about the loans that are the loans and grants that are coming out of the COVID-3 bill, which is also known as the CARES Act. So I'm going to go a little more into that. So you're going to probably hear a lot of EDIL, which is the economic injury disaster loans. Those are loans through the SBA. Again, those are loans. And the SBA, I believe they'll get Mr. Garcia on here later. He'll go much more into detail about those. Out of the CARES Act, we have what everyone is calling the PPP. You're going to hear the PPP a lot, but that's basically the Paycheck Protection Program. And the idea for this is to keep your employees on payroll. We don't want them to have all to go over to Secretary McKinley and apply for unemployment. And we know basically small businesses can't do that if no income is coming in. So these loans actually turn into grants. If you are able to show that you not only kept your employees on payroll, you continue to pay them, this loan would then turn into a grant and that you would not have to pay back. These aren't perfect. We know that, but they are something that we desperately need to keep our small businesses afloat. And I am stressing that we do start applying for these. Now, these loans will be going through lenders. The SBA approved lenders. There is a list of those on their website. I'm sure that that list will also be provided here. We have about 40 lenders in New Mexico. On our end, what we're expecting is that these loans, these grants, aren't going to reach everybody. There's going to be certain industries or maybe certain individuals that are not covered with these. And what we want to do is hear from you. My contact information is right here on the screen. Please let me know if you are not having, for some reason, you don't qualify for some of these. Like, we know that there's some 501c6s that don't, it's really hard for them to find the correct, if they're a smaller nonprofit, for them to get the right amount of money because of how these things were set up. We need to make sure we know about these problems so that when we go back, and we are expecting that there should be another COVID bill, a COVID-4, I guess. What that's going to look like, we don't know. It's the spectrum of all the way to a really large, a giant economic stimulus bill to something more of just a gap filler for what's missing in these ones. So at the very least, we expect to be able to fill in the gaps where people aren't getting the funding they need to keep their businesses alive. We desperately want to make sure we're keeping these businesses alive. And so, this CARES Act, it was $377 billion just for small businesses. Is that going to be enough? We'll have to see how long this lasts. But in New Mexico, we have 150,000 small businesses. That's 340,000 workers. This is a very, very extreme situation that we want to make sure that small businesses are getting the information on how to sign up for these loans, and that they do. We desperately want you to sign up for them. I know there's problems right now with the lenders. We just saw that yesterday. The Federal Reserve is reaching out to lenders, letting them know that they're going to help financially with these loans as well for people who might have not the best credit. So that's one of the main things out of here. I know there's also the individual, one-time payments. Some people are interested in that, but since this is for small businesses, I think I'll just leave it there and see if there's any questions.
Thank you so much, Francesca. Great information. And thank you for all the work that you all are doing. Very much appreciated. And you are going to stay on for the duration, correct? And be able to
That's
take
correct.
the end? Okay. All right. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Next up, we have Cabinet Secretary Bill McKinley with the Department of Workforce Solutions, or Workforce Development, I'm sorry.
And Workforce Solutions.
Good afternoon or good morning. Can you all hear me? Hello?
We can hear you, Secretary. Thank you.
Thank you. So I forwarded a couple of slides. I don't know if they were received. There we go. Cool. So just a couple of slides to go over the situation with unemployment. The New Mexico Department of Workforce Solutions, as most of you probably know, runs the unemployment program for the state. And just want to tell everybody about what kind of situation we are in. So as of last Friday morning, we had 28,000 new first-time claims. The week before, we actually had 32,000, so the number was slightly down for last week. And we had 44,000 certifications. So these are folks who have had their claims accepted at least enough to get into the system. And those 44,000 people are either A, receiving benefits right now, or in a process of what we call adjudication, which means that our staffers are actually going through the processing of figuring out whether people have done what they need to do with their employer to be able to get unemployment so that they are valid with the program as determined by us, the federal government. So let me tell you what that means. So the week of March 9th, which was the week before the governor declared the public health stuff that got put into place, we had about 9,600 people receiving certifications, and we had about 700 or 800 first-time claims. Those are fairly good numbers for people for the weeks leading up to this. So we have basically gotten a 30-fold increase in first-time applications and have over 4 times the amount of people on unemployment in the certification roles that were there a couple of weeks ago. To put that into perspective, during the Great Recession from 2008 to 2010, we had about 50 or 60,000 people at the height of that recession in 2010 of people that were on unemployment. But it took about 2 years to get there. We will probably reach those numbers in about a 4-week time frame. And so I just want to put into perspective the change in the amount of volume our offices would be dealing with, because I know there has been a lot of frustration out there. I know people are worried about the situation and trying to figure out how they can get into this system. But I just want to let folks know that that's where we're at, and that's the situation we're working through every day. So our biggest thing is to try to push people online. There's a lot of states out there that have websites that have crashed. They haven't had the server capacity. They weren't designed for it. Our website has stayed remarkably robust and functional during this whole process. And so our message has always been to folks, look, if you need to apply for unemployment, if you know someone who has to apply, if you're an employer with workers that need to get on there, please, please, please go online to jobs.state.nm.us. You can both apply for unemployment as well as do your weekly certifications. In order for people to receive weekly benefits, they need to certify every single week. And so that's something you can do online. For people that have to call into our call center, I know this is where we've had a lot of frustration for people that can't get through. Last Monday, not yesterday, but the week before, we had 687,000 calls into our call center. Obviously, this type of volume, at our max capacity right now, we have about 120 people answering the phones. We're trying to get more people on every day. We are getting more people on every day, but that volume is just too high for us to answer. So we're asking people to call on a certain day. If the last number of your social security number is 0 to 3, we're asking you call on Monday. 4 to 6, call on Tuesday. 7 to 9, call on Wednesday. And then Thursday and Friday, we're leaving open for people who either missed their day or couldn't get through. This has become an issue because everybody just wants to call in on Monday. So yesterday, our call volume was very high as well. It wasn't as high as it was a week ago, but we're really asking people to try to abide by these rules to lower the call volume and allow us to help people on a more useful basis. So other states have actually done this as well. New York moved to a system where they're asking people to call on days related to their last name. And I noticed that Texas is actually moving to a geographical system where they're asking people, for instance, from El Paso to only call in on the mornings on Monday and Wednesday, Friday. So states around the country are getting the same situation that we are getting and are working through it just like we are. So in order to help us help you, if you could pass that word along to anyone you know who is applying, that would be great. Can we move on to the next slide, please? Thank you. And so the other thing I was asked to talk about is the Federal CARES Act. So this is the exact same situation that was being discussed before by Francesca. There are a couple of things in there that affect unemployment insurance. The first is the pandemic unemployment compensation. This is what Congress is giving to give an additional $600 to folks that are on unemployment on top of their regular unemployment benefit. So if you were getting $300 a week in your unemployment benefit, when this kicks in, you will be getting $900 a week for the 13-week period that Congress has settled that would be the designated period for this. The second one is pandemic unemployment assistance. And this is one we've been getting a lot of calls about recently and asked about recently. There's a lot of self-employed folks out there. Contractors, gig economy workers, musicians, all these types of folks that are basically self-employed are not traditionally allowed to apply for unemployment. This pandemic unemployment assistance will allow them to apply for a secondary lane in the system. It's not unemployment because they're not going to be pulling money out of the unemployment trust fund that employers usually kick into. But it is a system that's going to allow folks to, receive some benefits through our unemployment system. The other part of pandemic unemployment assistance that we still haven't gotten guidance on from the federal government, it regards people who have had their benefits run out. So people get 26 weeks of unemployment under traditional regulations. And this portion of the bill that was passed allows people to extend their benefits. So there's two things we need for each of these three things. Number one, we need guidance from the U.S. Department of Labor. They need to set up the specific rules for our agency and every other state in the country to be able to administer these programs. We got the rules for the $600 extra, the pandemic unemployment compensation at 9:00 at night on Saturday. We got the rules for the pandemic unemployment assistance program at 9:00 on Sunday, and we have still not received guidance for the folks who have exhausted their benefits. We're still waiting on that. We need some time to go over those and make sure that we understand them. There's webinars today that the DOL is having to make sure that everybody's questions are answered. And we're going to need some time, frankly, to change our systems and train up our people to be able to take these things. So by Friday, we should have a game plan with some dates that we can get at least the unemployment compensation, the $600 portion of it done, and the PUA for the self-employed individuals done. Still going to be a few weeks left. The $600 increase is going to come first, and the pandemic unemployment assistance program for self-employed people is going to come second. But the good news on that, even though it's going to be some more weeks, is folks can backdate their applications for these. So for the $600 extras, if you were receiving unemployment on March 29th, starting that week, according to our data, you should be able to get a $600 boost for each of those weeks that you've been getting it, and then move forward. And so, for instance, if you got it on the last week of, if we turn this thing on in the last week of April, you should be able to receive 3 portions of $600 a piece in one benefit. And then moving into the summer, you should be able to get your regular unemployment plus the $600 on top of that. For the self-employed folks, when they got on, they should be able to reapply according to what we've heard now from March 15th and be able to get benefits in the middle of March and then get their benefits plus the $600 for April. So though it's going to take a while for us to get this going, we think that people will be able to get a lot of benefits their first week that they get it. So that should be good news for a lot of people. We do estimate that there are about 62,000 folks that would be eligible for this. Obviously, if everyone tried to call into our call center on one day, that wouldn't work. And so we're going to be getting a website up with specific instructions for folks on how to apply to this. And we are really, really pushing people to try to go online for these applications and certifications. So that's what I have. I really appreciate you all taking this, and I'd like to answer any questions anybody might have.
Great, thank you so much, Secretary. I'm really surprised you still have a voice right now. I know you're working around the clock and giving a lot of information sessions, so thank you so much. And we'll compile those questions at the end of this session. And I'd like to remind everyone to put your questions into the questions and answer box, not the chat box. That way it helps us organize the questions better, and we will be able to compile all these and get these to the panelists afterward. So please put those questions into the questions and answer box. So next up, I am going to give an overview of what we are offering at the State Economic Development Department. And again, my name is Johanna Nelson. I am with the State Economic Development Department. And actually, you can see kind of the messy background that I have. If you can see video, I'm also a business owner as well. And this is my business storeroom. So apologies about the mess in the background. This is my only quiet space to find in my house that doesn't have screaming kids. So it's good to be here with you, and thanks again to everyone that's putting on this presentation. So at the state level, we are offering a couple of additional financial assistance programs. And one of those is a business loan guarantee program for businesses that have been affected negatively by COVID-19. So what this means is we can guarantee a portion of a commercial loan to a bank or a credit union, a lending institution. This means that we are not giving a loan, but we are guaranteeing that loan. During these times, we know that many of the lending institutions are uncertain about the future. They're hesitant to lend. They're looking to limit their risk and liability. So what we are doing is we are giving them a guarantee and saying that up to 80% of the principal, we will come in and we will pay on that note if unfortunately it defaults. So we're providing an extra level of security for the lender to be able to make that loan to a business. We can go up to $50,000. However, that means that the loan can be higher. It could be a $100,000 loan, it could be higher, but we can only go up to $50,000. We are very flexible with our program. We don't have hard and fast rules on how to access this money, because we're putting a lot of weight on the analysis from the lending institution. That means that loan proceeds, what the loan is being used for, can go toward a variety of different things: payroll, working capital, inventory, very upfront operational costs we are seeing our businesses struggle with and seeking financing for. So our program will cover these things and more. We can guarantee up to 24 months. That means that our guarantee will be in place for up to 2 years. This means that the loan could be a greater time length, but our guarantee will only be in place up to 24 months. We're not limited by industry. All industries are welcomed to apply and participate in the program. And the application process is very streamlined and very simple. And the business does need to disclose on that application while they're working on it with their lender, how they have been negatively impacted by the health crisis. Going over the process really quickly, this is important to point out. You're going to approach your lender to discuss your financial needs and bring it up, or they would bring it up about this program. So you're actually going to the lender. You're not applying directly to us. You've got to access this program by working with your lender. The lender applies to the program. Then we sign an agreement with the lender makes the loan, and we guarantee the loan in case of a default. We're still hitting our guideline and target for getting responses back to the lenders within 24 hours. And we've got a review group that is reviewing all the applications, and we're still hitting that target. It's been a little difficult with all of the volume coming in, but we're getting fast turnarounds. So the idea of working with your lender, there are some questions that have been coming up. Folks are going to their lenders, they are inquiring about this program, and their lender is saying that they are not participating in the program. Many of the banks and financial institutions in New Mexico, some are not participating. If that's the case, then what you would do is online, and I think I have that in the next slide. Let's see, I don't have that, but I will put that on there. On our website, which you can go to this link, you will be able to find a lender partner list. And what we are doing is we have a live lender list that shows all participating lending institutions in New Mexico that are participating in the program, as well as accepting new customers. And that's something really important to point out during this whole scenario, is that many of the lending institutions are focusing on their existing customers. So we have tried to identify the lending institutions that are not only taking care of their current customers, but open to new customers and open to participating in this program. So the lenders can apply online at that link and get all the information that you or your lender might need. And that being said, I do want to highlight, if you are working with your lender, it can be a credit union, a bank, a CDFI, and they don't know about the program, feel free to connect them with me and we can talk through the program and explain it to them. We will work with any bank or any lending institution. Another program I do want to highlight is an additional financial assistance program that we're offering through the Economic Development Department. This is through our LEDA program, Local Economic Development Act. Traditionally, this program is very well known. It is throughout the state, and we have been able to modify it to be able to answer needs during the health crisis. So right now, the Economic Development Department is able to offer through this program 0% interest loans to qualifying entities. All of the statutory requirements that are put forth in the Constitution that guide the program are still applicable even during the crisis, meaning that you have to be a qualified entity. That means that you need to be a manufacturer, non-retail service business. At least 50% of your revenue has to be generated from out of the state. And there was an amendment that was passed in this recent legislative session that if you are in a community that's less than 15,000 in population, retail establishments could apply. So maybe looking outside of the city of Santa Fe, in Santa Fe County, that might be applicable. And the uses of the loan still have to go to those qualified uses that are put forth in the Constitution. So that is land, building, or infrastructure, However, it can be lease abatement or mortgage assistance. So this, we have been working with numerous companies throughout the state that they are using the LIDA loan to help offset lease payments to further free up some cash and capital. So it's important to point out as well that all of these loans do have to have a security equal to the amount of loan in place, and that's also a requirement. So this isn't necessarily a one fits all solution, but it is helpful to some of those organizations. And if this sounds like something that could potentially help you, let's talk about it immediately and start that process. Here's the contact information. You're going to want to contact your regional representative, and for Santa Fe and northern New Mexico, that is Peter Mitchell. And you can also reach out to Mark Roper, who is the division director, and you would reach out to them to start this process and discuss it and see if it's a good fit for you. And someone is saying that they can't see the video, so maybe that helps. So hopefully you can see my screen, the PowerPoint. Okay. Let's talk about some other additional opportunities that are being offered through the state of New Mexico. The New Mexico Small Business Investment Council, the acronym is the SBIC. They recently put $25 million into their local or their statewide loan programs. You'll be able to access this link. What this is they put money into CDFIs, and those CDFIs are able to make very low interest loans with special relief clauses that can help businesses during this time. So the ones that have been identified are the Loan Fund, let's see, the Loan Fund, Dream Spring, and the Lift Fund. And you can access this link, you can get that information, and you can contact them and see about accessing those programs through that link. If you are a larger institution and you employ more than 50 employees, you might be eligible for the New Mexico Recovery Fund. This is a fund, it is a loan that is being managed by Sun Mountain Capital. And recently the State Investment Council invested money into this fund. So that might be an option for you if you are in a larger company. Obviously, all of us in economic development and local government are hearing, where can I get a grant? I don't want to take out a loan. I can't afford a loan right now. I need grant assistance. So we've tried our best to identify some really key points to help you in the grant search. Altogether New Mexico Fund, this is a fund that recently was launched by the governor's office in collaboration with the Santa Fe Community Foundation. You can go to their website and get more information about that. They're in the process of unrolling that program. And the next bullet that you should see on your screen is the New Mexico Grant Makers Association. This is a fantastic organization that is on this website. They are compiling all of the local regional funds that are coming online, and they're doing that pretty up to date. So you can go there and you can search what's being offered. And also, if you go to their website and look up their member list, you can see all of the grant makers in New Mexico. That might be a strategy as well, is to look at all the grant makers in New Mexico and see if any of them are applicable to your needs. Also, hopefully this is common knowledge to everyone, but nationally, a lot of industry leaders are offering grants. So if you are I saw one recently, if you are a bartender, there's a bartender association nationally that's offering grants to folks in that industry that are leading the charge on that. So it doesn't hurt to do a national search within your industry to see what types of associations are out there that could potentially help with grants. I put this link on this page that's calling out the manufacturers, innovators, and supplier collaboration. This I thought was helpful. This is coming out of the governor's office. This is an effort to compile all of these players, manufacturers, innovators, and suppliers in a collaborative effort that are able to help with the production or the supply of much needed medical equipment. So if you are a business or an innovator that could potentially help supply medical equipment or add some type of aid in that regard, go to this website and you can get more information about how to be linked in. And someone, Sally, is saying that she can't click on any of the links. So, and we recognize that, Sally. So this will be sent out, or this will be available on the city's page in a PDF, and you will be able to click these links. These are additional business resources. So this will show you, this takes you to our website. You can get more information as well. I put up this link, the federal resources. This is a conglomerate of all of the federal agencies and what relief programs that are being offered. So this is a really good list to stay on top of. For technical assistance and emergency planning, obviously here are the big players in our state, and you can be able to access those. These are our regional representatives, as mentioned, for Santa Fe County. That representative for the department is Peter Mitchell, and that is his contact information. So please reach out to him if you have any questions. Here are our contacts, our deputy director, our division director, and myself. And this is how you can stay connected. We are doing our best to provide updates through our social media channels. And I didn't put that on there, but I'll add that as we have a YouTube channel as well. And we've been hosting pretty regular webinars to update folks on resources available. So thank you so much again for your time. I hope I was able to offer some insight into the programs that we're offering at the Economic Development Department. Just keep in mind that we're ready to go. We're working to help you. We've got a hotline that you can call. I'll add that to these slides as well. Reach out to us. Let us know what questions you have. We are answering the phone. People sometimes they get surprised when I answer the phone that there's a real person on the line. So email us, call us, we're here to help you get through this challenging time. So we're all in it together. And I'd like to introduce the SBA State Director, John Garcia. And John, let me.
Okay, can you hear me now? You can?
Yes, John, we can hear you.
Oh, okay, good. Listen, thank you again for inviting us to participate. Before we begin, again, just put a little in perspective for people.
Hey, John, your audio is cutting in and out. We weren't really able to hear anything.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you right now.
Is that a lot better then?
Yes, that is better.
I just want to put this in perspective if I can.
Nope, it's still garbled a bit. John?
How's that now?
That's good.
And you can hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, on March 16th, we went into a shutdown. And that's when the governor announced that conventions and conferences were canceled. March 25th, and that particular week, the state was declared an economic disaster. Today's April 7th. That's 18 days ago. 3 weeks. Seems like 3 months or more. And we've all been very busy trying to catch up on everything that's happening right now. But the SBA has moved as quick as we could to initiate information and get it out to people. And I think what's most important right now is what we have in place to assist small businesses. There's 30 million small businesses across the country, 157,000 in the state of New Mexico. And over the last 3 weeks, they've all been rushing to our disaster relief office to find some relief and some assistance to keep their businesses up and running and pay some of their employees. So the SBA has in place right now low interest, long-term economic injury disaster loans. Those loans are up to $2 million. The first payment is deferred for 12 months. They've simplified the application the last 18 days 3 times, and now it's a fine loan that at least takes about 20 minutes to fill out that application. You need to go to www.sba.gov/disaster. You'll be given an ID number, and the disaster office will work with you, assist you on up to $10. The first payment is deferred for 12 months, 75% interest. 2 weeks ago, they added what is called the economic injury disaster loan, which is up to $10,000. $10,000 is up to $10,000. And this is to help make payroll and other operating expenses that'll be forgiven. Then, of course, what everyone is just about, and it's SBA or not SBA loan, but it came out of the Treasury Department, and that's the Paycheck Protection Program, which is guaranteeing the bank 100% guarantee for this particular loan. The Paycheck Protection Program is a loan designed to provide a direct incentive for small businesses to keep their workers on payroll. The SBA will forgive the loan if all the employees are kept on payroll for 8 weeks and the money is used for payroll, rent, mortgage interest, or utilities. The Paycheck Protection Program is available up to June the 30th. So employees have up to June the 30th to work with their bankers and get their application into their banks. The program is for small business with less than 500 employees, including sole proprietorships, independent contractors, self-employed persons, and also private nonprofits. And as yesterday, they confirmed that religious organizations qualify as a nonprofit organization. So
Hey, John,
business certain industries.
The audio is coming in a bit garbled.
Okay, can you hear me again better?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so you have to apply online. You have to work with our 7(a) lender across the state, and that is with your banker. If your bank is a 7(a) lender, then you can work closely with your bank. And so I encourage everybody to contact their bank, work as quickly as you can with them, get that application filled out. Because across the country, everyone is applying for this particular loan. If the loan is used again to pay your employees, then the bank will fill out an application and forgive that loan for you. There are 3 primary questions that we're getting. Those questions I'd like to maybe go over with you, and then I know Russell will get into more detail about it. But for example, if you're applying and or you received an economic injury disaster loan, is your small business eligible to participate in the Paycheck Protection Program? Borrowers can apply for both a SBA economic injury disaster loan and the Paycheck Protection loan. However, the Paycheck Protection Program loan funds and the economic injury disaster loan funds cannot be used for the same purpose. So the Paycheck Protection Program must be used for payroll. A minimum of 75% of the funds be eligible for a forgivable loan. And then the remaining is for 25% for your interest or utilities and others.
Hey, John, it's cutting in and out again. We might just, do you want to just switch to, should we just go into Russell and
yeah, let's,
okay.
Yeah, because Russell can pick up a lot of the difference. But again, the PPP, work with your banker. The other two loans, you contact our SBA.gov site, and our disaster relief office will work and coordinate with the client. Any other questions or calls, they just call us here at the SBA office. We'd be glad to work with them.
Okay, and I know the information you have is extremely important, but I know Russell is going to go into detail as
Yeah, I've
well.
got a bad connection here, so yeah, switch over to Russell.
Okay, and maybe I'm not sure what the connection is, so maybe we can
Yeah, I'm
ameliorate.
going to try to fix it. Okay, thanks.
Okay, all right, thank you so much, John. Okay, Russell, and I will unmute you, and I'm going to leave you unmuted, John, if you have anything to add to Russell's. Oops. Okay, all right, Russell, you should be unmuted.
Very good. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. And let me turn my video on. Okay, so, well, thank you very much. If you can go ahead and go to my name is Russell Wyrick. I am the Executive State Director for the Small Business Development Center Network. So again, the network is pretty large and understanding. We've got the New Mexico SBDCs. Those are 18 centers across the state. So we've got 34 business advisors across the state that provide direct one-on-one counseling assistance. We'll talk about that in a second. We're also, if you've heard of the procurement technical, it's the technical assistance centers, not service centers, but it's procurement technical assistance centers, or PTAC. We have 6 of those centers across the state, and they work with people individually who are pursuing government contracts, federal, state, or local government contracts. We also have our international business accelerator down in Santa Teresa. Jerry Pacheco, again, that's our program there. We also have the technology commercialization accelerator, which is new out of Socorro. So it's a network of business experts across the state that provide one-on-one direct assistance to small businesses, navigating business challenges, and there's no cost for our services. So go to the next slide. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we do and what I'm going to talk about today. It's in New Mexico SBDC. So we have 2 things we do. We provide no cost one-on-one business counseling via phone, web, conference, or email right now. We normally provide that in person, but as you know, because everyone's quarantined or at home, we're doing it via remotely currently. We also no cost live webinar training on SBA loan programs and important COVID-19 related business challenges. So what I can cover today and the questions I can cover today are only a fraction of what you need to know. So because of the volume, we're getting hundreds of requests a day for counseling, and with 34 advisors, as you can imagine, sometimes it takes a couple of hours working with the client for their particular situation. So we've got the training in place. So right now, I do want to let you know we're offering multiple trainings, and it's expanding every day. So we have a full training on the PPP loan that you can attend. There's no cost for it. We're offering it 2 times a day, and those are filling up pretty quickly. And we're offering it every day of the week. So if you want to know about the PPP loan, you can go in, get the full presentation, ask your questions, get the full information, and it's currently offered twice a day. And you would register. We also have the EIDL loan. We're doing that presentation, that training 2 times a day. It is live. We've chosen not to record them because things are moving so fast and changing so fast. If we recorded a training to give to you, within 2 days, it would be obsolete. So the realization of it is giving you the information live as it occurs so that you can go in and get your questions answered. So to register for those, you'd go to nmsbdc.org, and that stands for New Mexico Small Business Development Center. So it's nmsbdc.org. When you go to that page, you're going to see 2 links there at the top. You're going to see COVID-19, and that's for counseling assistance. So you can click on that button to get in the queue for a counselor to contact you and work with you one-on-one with your business consulting to assist you. Or you could click on the training link, and the training link there, you'll find all of the trainings that I just mentioned and offered. Within a couple days, we'll be adding all of them. I've got someone working on all of the state programs. I hope to have that one launched by tomorrow. So all of the state programs and offerings, we'll be doing a daily webinar on those. update on that and information. I'll also have a training on cash flow analysis. So how much do you need to borrow? How long can you survive? And that balance. It will teach you how to use a cash flow analysis sheet to analyze what's going on with your business, figure out how much money you're going to actually need to have to avoid hitting a zero bank balance at the end of the month, depending on however many months this thing lasts, or how long it takes your business to ramp back up. Because what we're facing right now with every business, we know this is more than short term. That once this is over and people go back to shopping, it does not mean that your business will go back to the sales it was at prior to this emergency. It may take you a full year to build your sales back up. And so you need to project that and make sure that you have an understanding of long-term how much cash you're going to need in reality to make that transition and survive over the next year and a half, not just 3 months. So again, I encourage you to visit that website, get registered for the training. They're very good. And again, you'll see some of that training in today's presentation, just a fraction of what you're going to get for both of those. But again, no cost, please register. Next slide. So let's talk about the SBA relief options. There's really 4 that the SBA has in place. I'm going to cover what's called the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. This is a program that's been around since the 1950s. I think they started it in 1953. I'll talk a little bit about that. And then we'll talk about the Paycheck Protection Program. That's the newest offering from the SBA. We'll also talk about the SBA Express Bridge Loans, and we'll talk about the SBA debt relief efforts. Next slide. So let's talk about the debt relief. Right now, prior to this emergency, if your business had an SBA guaranteed loan, like you had a 504 or a 7A loan prior to this that you're currently making payments on, the SBA is supposed to automatically cover that principal, interest, and fees for a period of 6 months. So if you're currently on that, and if it hasn't occurred, make some phone calls, but that's what's supposed to happen currently. Also, the principal, interest, and fees of the new 7A loans issued prior to September 27th, 2020, same situation. So you'll get the 6-month period where the SBA is covering those payments on those 7A loans. Next slide. So let's talk about the SBA Express Bridge Loan. And in a moment, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about loans. I've been a business owner. My background is entrepreneurship. I owned 8 businesses over a 15-year period. And I know that people don't like loans, but some of the conversations you're going to need to have is you're going to have to really have some understanding of the reality of the current situation. And that means whereas you may not want a loan, there may be a reality that you need to learn about them and explore them, because depending on how long this lasts or sells, it may mean a difference between your business surviving or not. If you're depending solely on grants to come through this, for some businesses that may work. If you're a micro business and you make $10,000 or $15,000 a year, that might work for you. If you're a larger business and you've got payroll, you really need to be exploring some of the realities of what we may be facing, okay? So the bridge loan here is an express loan pilot program to help the express lenders to get access to $25,000 quickly. This would only be available through the SBA lenders that are already do the express loans. So you can check with your lender to find out, are you an express lender? But this is really designed so that you can rapidly access funds. And we're going to talk about timing to access funds because that's really important. One of the biggest challenges you're going to face as a small business right now is timing in getting the funds. And I'm going to share with you what I'm talking about as we go through this. So this is fast turnaround, and it would be repaid in full or in part by proceeds from the EIDL loan if you eventually get approved for that. Next slide. So let's talk about the Paycheck Protection Program, okay? This is a loan, and I want to make clear to everyone, because there's a lot of chatter going around, this is a loan, okay? It's not a grant. It's not free money. It's not, gee, I get this and then it's all forgiven. There are rules in place. So it is a loan. It's a temporary expansion of the SBA's 7A loan guarantee program that's going to be available through June 30th, 2020. And so what that means is a loan guarantee, typically what a loan guarantee is that the SBA, you go to a local lender, the lender analyzes, processes your loan application, and the lender decides, are they going to give you this loan? They apply to the SBA, and the SBA gives them what would be called a guarantee. And that guarantee would be is if you default on a loan, the bank doesn't have the same risk level because the SBA has guaranteed that as long as a lender has followed due diligence in their protocol, that the SBA would come in and guarantee a portion of that loan. That is typical how a 7A works. So what we're talking about now for the Paycheck Protection Program, it's through the 7A program, but it was some adjustments or changes to those rules to allow them to get this to occur. But you still, in essence, you're going to your local lender. Your local lender is giving you the loan, okay? It's coming, your local lender's making the decision, applying loan. And then if you follow all the rules, all or a portion of that loan could possibly be forgiven by the SBA, okay? So the SBA will forgive the PPP loans if all employees are kept on the payroll for 8 weeks and the money is used for payroll, rent, mortgage, interest, and utilities. So again, those loan proceeds have specific uses for what they can be used for, and you have to use them for those specific expenses. If you don't follow that, then that means that the portion you don't follow that may not be forgivable, okay? You can apply through any existing SBA 7A lender or through any federal insured depository institution, federally insured credit union, farm system institution, if they're participating, and other and there'll be other lenders that are going to become available to make that. The PPP lenders and final lender guidance is still a work in progress, and that was as of April 3rd. They've got what we call interim final guidance in place right now. So here's what you're going to do to find a lender. I'm going to talk to you about this. You can, on the SBA website, when you navigate through, there is a link that you can click on to say find a Paycheck Protection Program lender. Now, when you click on that link, you need to understand what you're seeing. You're going to see a list of lenders on a map. You'll see a map. You'll enter your zip code to get a map. Those are eligible lenders. That does not mean that they are doing the Paycheck Protection Program. It just means that they are eligible to. So before you get in your car and drive to that lender to apply for the loan, I recommend that you call them. Pick up the phone, call those lenders on that list and identify, are you accepting applications? Can I apply for you? If they're a branch, they may say, no, you need to call this branch of our bank or et cetera. So I would make the phone calls before you get in your car and drive to those banks, just to double check that they are indeed accepting applications. That is a changing game every day. And so what that means is some lenders are still waiting on guidance before they're going to start taking apps. Others are already taking applications. And so it really varies. So if you call your lender and your lender says we're not taking apps right now, that doesn't mean that they're not going to in the future. It just means right now they may not be taking applications. If you talk to some of the lenders and they say, no, we're not participating, again, that does not mean they may not participate in the future. It just means they may have made the decision not to at the current time. So just be patient and understanding the banks are, your lenders are here for the community. They're working very hard and diligently. They've got a lot of, they've got to train their employees. They've got a lot of things going on. So be patient and understanding. They are working as fast as they can, and they're there to support you. And they will, they'll get there, just taking time to catch up. All right. And they can begin processing the applications as soon as April 3rd. So April 3rd was with the official start date. There's still some things in play. I've seen other data that's pushed some dates back to April 10th for certain entities. And I'm sure I'm going to get questions on that. But for now, the eligible lenders can, I'm going to say they can begin taking applications, but some of them may or may not. But April 10th is really when we're looking for, and I'll explain why April 10th is such an important date in a moment. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, So this is for any small business with 500 employees, including 500 employees or less. Okay, so 500 or less. That includes sole proprietors, independent contractors, or self-employed individuals. You also have private nonprofit organizations or 501c19 veteran organizations that are affected by this virus situation. All right, now you might have more than 500 employees. If your business has more than 500 employees, you need to check the SBA size standards. There are some industries that the SBA has some different size standards because they have often more employees or they have multiple locations. So if you do exceed 500 employees, don't just say, I don't qualify. Check the SBA size standards for your specific industry because you might qualify. A small business in the hospitality and food industry with more than one location, they could be eligible if an individual location employs less than 500 workers. Let's go to the next slide. So now the loan will be fully forgiven if the funds are used for payroll cost, interest on mortgage, rent, and utilities. So very, very specific on what you can use those funds for in regards to the forgiveness. The data we have right now, the guidance we have right now, and again, it's limited, is that but they're expecting the high use of this, at least 75% of that forgiven amount it has to be used for payroll. Now we don't have that in other than general guidance, but we don't have the specific details yet as to how the calculation for forgiveness will actually occur. So we're getting many people that say, I had 10 employees. I've already laid off 3. I'm going to try to bring them back, but I don't know whether they're going to want to because now they're on unemployment, et cetera. So how that will impact, we don't have that information yet. So the guidance does not exist on the exact calculation as to how much the forgiveness will be adjusted based on your head count. We just know if you keep the same head count, so if you had 10 positions on your payroll, and you keep those 10 positions, we'll say positions rather than employees, then what the information we have now is that those would be forgiven. That could be a forgivable portion of the loan for the 8 weeks of the salary, and we'll talk about that, okay? Loan payments will also be deferred for 6 months. No collateral or personal guarantees are required for this. And then neither the government nor lenders are going to charge any small business fees. So there's no like a lending fee currently set up for this. The forgiveness is based on the employer maintaining or quickly rehiring employees and maintaining those salary levels. So they're going to look at what you were paying in salaries before this and after this. And if your salary levels have gone down, that could impact the amount that is forgiven, okay? And it would also be reduced, the forgiveness could be reduced if the full-time headcount declines. So if you had 10 employees and you go to 5, it could impact the amount forgiven, okay? It has a maturity of 2 years and an interest rate of 1%. I want you to pay close attention to the terms on these loans, all right? The EIDL loan has up to 30-year terms, okay? This is a 2-year maturity. The payments on a 2-year loan and the payment on a 30-year loan is very different. So we'll talk about that when we get to EIDL. So you need to make certain when you're making these decisions for your small business that you're following the rules very closely and you're paying attention to the details. The interest rate is 1% for this Paycheck Protection Program loan. But to be clear, so that you understand, if you get a Paycheck Protection Program loan, the payments and interest are covered for the 6 months. After that 6 months is over, let's say you borrow $100,000. You need to realize 6 months later, you're going to have that's probably $4,200 payment, even at 1%, starting on that month 7. So you need to be careful. Okay, next slide. All right, if you want to, you can begin preparing your application. You can download that from the SBA website at sba.gov to start gathering your information so that when you talk to your lender, you've got it all together. But your lender can help you with that application when you go in to apply, but it would be good to go ahead and get your stuff together and you can get the application. That does change. We've seen it change a couple of times. So I would recommend if you have one from last week, go to the SBA website and make sure you have the current Paycheck Protection Program application. Okay, next slide. So let's talk about the EIDL. Now remember I talked about the economic injury disaster loan. Now I want you to think about the economic injury disaster loan and the EIDL advance in your mind as two different things. They're not, but they really are. So the economic injury disaster loan has been around since the 50s. And basically what that is, anytime there's a disaster like a hurricane or a tornado or whatever, anytime there's a disaster, they'll do, the SBA has a division that will go out and they'll provide these disaster loans. So those are called physical disaster loans. Now there's other types of disasters like a drought or whatever, where maybe a business's building wasn't destroyed, but they are harmed, from an economic perspective. And in those instances, the SBA provides what is called the economic injury disaster loan. So what happened is when this occurred, they took the economic injury disaster loan program and they made a couple of adjustments for this to take in play. But this is a program that's been around forever. It's just they put this grant component into it, okay? So what that is an economic injury disaster loan advance of up to $10,000 to businesses that are currently experiencing temporary loss of revenue. Now, I want to point out, I'm going to give you some information. It's up to $10,000. So we don't have clarification on exactly what that means, but we've heard some chatter that it may be based on the number of employees that you have, but none of that is not confirmed at this time. But it would be up to $10,000. And again, if you want more details, we have that on our daily training, and we'll let you know as soon as we know. Right now, everyone's eligible. All the counties have been certified in the U.S., so any business in the U.S. or its territories are eligible. Now, what it says is it says that it'll be made available within 3 days of successful application. And I know I'm going to get a lot of questions. People have said, well, I applied 10 days ago and I still don't have my advance. So let me explain what's going on. When they did the CARES Act, when it passed, the CARES Act was signed on March 27th by the president, okay? In the CARES Act, it gave the SBA administrator, the US SBA administrator in DC, gave the administrator 15 days to develop guidance, okay? So if we count 15 days forward from March 27th, now we're talking about April 10th, okay? Or possibly April 11th, depending on if you count full days or not. But April 10th or 11th would be officially when the SBA has to have the guidance in place. So what we're saying is technically, if you start counting from April 10th or 11th when the guidance is in place and you go out 3 days, okay, if it's not occurring by that date, then the SBA would not be in compliance with the CARES Act. But so for that saying, I am not to date, I am not aware of anyone. And again, we helped out, over 1,000 small businesses at this point. We're not aware of anyone that has received the advance yet. So don't worry if you've applied and you haven't seen it. It's okay. They're working as fast as they can to process these things at the SBA. It's in play, and they'll get it. They will get there. Just it's going to take time for them to catch up. Okay. This advance will not have to be repaid. So whatever they advance you up to $10,000, that advance will not have to be repaid. And those payments would be deferred for 12 months. And that is if you actually go on to get the loan. So it's our understanding this is a two-part process. This again is not written. This is because of experience, boots on the ground, what we've seen. When you apply for that EIDL, you're going to fill out information, and it's not even going to have a section for you to tell how much money you want to borrow. So you're going to put in your name, your information, your cost of goods sold. What we have observed is after the fact, we're starting to get businesses that are receiving communication from the SBA to complete additional forms. So what we anticipate will occur is if you've applied for the loan, that you are likely to get contacted by the SBA when they get down the road to the loan portion of it to get additional information from you as about how much you need to borrow, etc. I apologize, I'm going slow, but I'm trying to do it this way so I cover as many of your questions I saw in the queue as possible. Okay, let's go to the next slide. So for this is again, any business with less than 500 employees is eligible. That includes sole proprietors, independent contractors, self-employed individuals, and the private, nonprofit organizations. So again, I mentioned this before, if you have more than 500 employees, you need to check on the size standards for what the SBA defines based on industry, because you still may qualify. And then again, we said that the funds would be made available within 3 days, and it would have to be applied. So the other thing, this says, all right, this is an error on my slide. Lenders may begin processing loan applications as soon as April 3rd. That's in reference to the PPP. So please disregard that last line for this item. Let's go to the next slide. So the eligible entities that we're talking about, the EIDL. So you can qualify for up to a $2 million loan through this program, okay? The interest rates for the EIDL are 3.75% for small businesses and 2.75% for nonprofit organizations. The unique part about this loan is that it can provide repayment terms of up to 30 years. And the payments are deferred for the first 12 months. What's important for you as a small business owner, if you are a sole proprietor, if you're an independent contractor, if you're dealing with these situations, I want you to think longer term. And that means right now you're worried about making payroll today. You need to be worried about making payroll all year, okay? So same thing, don't expect that the disaster's over now. Everyone comes out of quarantine and all of a sudden my business is gonna jump from 0 to 120 miles an hour. If you remember when you started that business, it took you years to build it up to speed. So you need to be prepared that it may take you time to reestablish some customers that may have been lost or are not spending their money. Because again, remember, they were out of work. So your customers were out of work. That doesn't mean they're going to be able to go in and spend money at the same level they had prior to this emergency. So you need to be thinking short term, but you also need to be thinking long term. One of the advantages of this loan is a 30-year term, okay? And so what that means is, let's say I'm going to borrow $100,000, okay, through this program. Now, I don't have a lot of employees, so I'm not going to get this big forgiveness thing that I would get through PPP. But I'm a sole proprietor, I have 1 or 2 people, and I've got to have money to keep my bills paid over the next year, okay? Over the next 2 years until things get sped up, okay? If you borrow $100,000 over a 30-year term, you're talking about a $420 a month payment over the next 30 years, okay? Whereas if you do it through another format, like a bank where you're getting, a term of 6 to 7 years, you're talking about a much larger payment. So you need to be thinking that, and I know those my businesses that they don't want to get a loan. Now, I'm not saying you should or you shouldn't. I'm saying you should investigate, you should analyze your cash, because what's important in New Mexico is that you survive. We want your business to survive and we want you to thrive, but be prepared for the pathway to get there. Okay, let's go to the next slide. So what can you use the EIDL loans for? So the money you get from the EIDL loans. There is a difference, if you remember, between what you can use the PPP loans for and what you can use the EIDL for. The EIDL loans, you can use that for working capital. You can use it to pay your fixed debts. You can use it for payroll. You can use it for accounts payable, and you could use it for bills that could have been paid had the disaster not occur. So it's got more options that you can use that money for than the PPP, all right? So you need to look at your expenses as a small business, see what goes out the door, and analyze which category your money goes out on to identify if the PPP or the EIDL is going to be more appropriate for you, and or whether you're going to get an EIDL and a PPP and have one. You can't have cost on both. You can't duplicate, but whether you have some going through, some of those expenses going like payroll or going through PPP, and other the items that qualify going through the EIDL. Okay. These loans are not intended to replace lost sales or profit or for expansion. So we're getting questions like, can I refinance an existing loan with a high interest rate to get them on this? That is not the purpose of it. And I would recommend that you be very cautious on that, because again, especially with the PPP, be very cautious, because if you don't follow the rules exactly correctly, you could wind up with a very high payment loan that is not completely, that does not get forgiven. And the same with this, you just follow the rules carefully. Let's go to the next slide. So I'm going to walk you through the idle loan application very briefly. I'm going to go pretty quickly on this because it does change, but I want to show you it's a pretty simple process. You go to the SBA website, you're going to navigate it. The first page you see when you click to apply is this. Click to the next slide. Then they're going to ask you for eligible entity verification. So you're going to select one of these for which the entity on this top one, you'll read through it. I'm not going to cover it now. Go to the next one. Click again. Okay, the next thing you're going to see is you're going to see a question list. You have to check all of these questions as true, or it's kind of like a self-eligibility check sort of thing they've got designed here. And so really, let's go through these super quick. Click on the first one. So they want to make sure you're not illegal activities, that you're not delinquent on child support, that you're not a farm, okay? And that you're, there's some rules in regards to illegal activities, et cetera. So you go through it, check each of those, make sure that, and then you'll hit continue. So next, click. You go to page 2. Once you hit page 2, you're going to see this page. Click the button. So what's going to happen is you'll put your legal business name and your trade name. And again, you'll have questions on this. Your SBDC advisor can help you with this application because you get all of them. Like, what if I have multiple businesses? What if I have multiple EIN numbers, et cetera? So these are great questions. We do cover some of that in the training, but we just don't have time to get into all of that today. So you're going to see a drop-down box on this page. You'll select your organization type, click. And you select the one that best represents. I recognize that not all entities are on this list. You're going to have to pick the one that best represents your particular business entity. Continue. Click. Okay, this will be the next page that you see. Click continue. This slide says cost of goods sold. Now, if you're an accountant and you have a background in finance, this gets confusing, all right? The way this was written, this application, they say cost of goods sold. Now, we've looked to interpret this as to what it means. We have limited guidance, but what we can get from the SBA Disaster Assistance Center, everyone, is that really what they're asking for in this slot is your total expenses. Some businesses will have what are cost of goods sold. So like if you have a retail store and you buy t-shirts to sell, the cost of goods sold would be the stuff that you're selling, et cetera. But if you're not that type of business, you're a service business or other industry, it varies. So this would be total expenses in this line is what most people are filling it out and completing, and to the best guidance we have, that's what we're recommending on that for everyone. Next. The other, you're going to see a drop box for state. Of course, you're going to click New Mexico. So let's go forward to the next slide. Then you're going to see business information. Go ahead and click. This is going to have a drop-down box for you to choose your activity, but this is really like the industry that you're in. So if you click that, it's going to give you a list. You're going to click the one that is closest to your business activity. I realize it may not be on here. You're just going to pick the one that is closest. Once you select that, so for this example, we'll select eating and drinking places. So click, and it'll go there. And then the box below it will autofill, will have the selections based on what you chose above. So you'll be able to choose again based on what your selection was above. All right. Let's go to the, then you click next slide. Okay. Then you have a question about, is it owned in whole and part by another business? Next slide. And then there's another drop down box. Here you'll put in for page 3 of your information. So that again, you'll select state. If you have additional owners, you click that to add them. Let's go to the next page. Now, this is the page with additional information. Let's go ahead and click the button. Now, when you get here, there'll be a section for you to complete if someone helped you complete this form. Most of you are not going to have that. The key here is if you worked with someone who told you specific what answers you need to put in there for that, that's what you'd put in there. Now, the purpose they really put this in for is this is really about making sure fraud doesn't occur, that some consultant or something didn't charge you 5% of the loan in order to help you fill out this application. So that's really the design of that. But most of you, that will be blank. Next slide. Next click. This is the important button. What you want to do is you want to make sure that you click that box for I would like to be considered for an advance of up to 10,000. And you'll check that box. That way, again, for this application, if you don't check it, they won't consider you for it. You'll just be put in the queue. But if you do check it, then you'll go into that process and hopefully for the 3-day advance up to 10,000. Now, some of you may have applied a week or two ago and you had, but I'm showing you, you didn't see when you applied. If that is the case, if you applied using the upload method they had, and then before that, they had another online, they've changed it 4 times, okay? If what I'm showing you today was not what you saw when you went through, you need to go back to the portal and apply using the method that is on there today for the $10,000 advance, okay? It's not going to impact your place in line. It's not going to cause it, to be late. It just, for the 10,000 advance, the data we've been given is you have to use this method to be in the pipeline for that advance. Okay, next slide. Okay, the next thing you're going to see, this will make some businesses uncomfortable. They're going to ask you for your bank routing number. Okay, the reason why they're asking you that is it's not realistic that they can get however many million paper checks in the mail for all the businesses. So this is a routing number so they can do the direct deposit of the advance into your account. So I'm just prepping you, it's on there. Click. Okay, then this is important. This is a self-certification process, okay? So this isn't really, you are putting the information and you are self-certifying that it is correct for eligibility for this portion of it. So when you check this box, you need to understand under penalty of perjury, you are verifying that the information you put on this is correct. So if it is correct, you would check that box and move forward. Click next. Okay, now, after you've submitted it, you're going to get a page. You'll want to review and edit the sections. There'll be a verify it's not a robot button. Y'all know what I'm talking about on a computer where you verify this is a real person. Sometimes they show pictures or whatever. You click submit, and then you're going to receive the application submitted. Go ahead and click the button. What's important here is on that, you're going to get an application number. You need to hold on to that application number because it's important. All right. So you make sure you find your application number. This is an example. This is not your application number. You'll get your own application number when you apply. Okay. Click. So to avoid scams, the SBA is going to refer to that application number whenever they communicate with you. If you have someone call you and they say they're from the SBA and they want to talk to you about your finances, don't have that conversation unless they have your application number that they can say, oh, your application number is this. Okay, go to the next slide. So let's talk about getting assistance. So in getting assistance, the SBA resource partners in New Mexico, the U.S. Small Business Administration has resource partners. And that means that the 4 of these programs here, we all get part of our funding from the U.S. Small Business Administration. So you've got the New Mexico SBDC, you've got WEST, these are the women's business centers in the state. You've got the SCORE. There are 3 SCORE chapters. There's one in Santa Fe, there's one in Albuquerque, and there's one in the Las Cruces area. And then we've got VBOC, which is the Veteran Business Outreach Centers. Any of these partners can assist you in navigating these things and getting the help you need. Okay, next slide. Now, I want you to pay attention. Unfortunately, when emergencies occur, con artists come out of the woodwork, okay? And so you need to be cautious. And what that means is if someone calls you proactively, so if you just get a phone call from someone that says, I can promise you that I can get you this SBA loan, but if you give me $5,000, I promise you I can get you a loan, okay? You need to suspect fraud, right? The SBA does not work that way. And you just need to be cautious of people that are promising things to you and wanting to charge you for it, okay? Phishing, same thing. If you're applying for the SBA loan and you get email correspondence that's asking for your personal information, you need to make sure that that email has your application number on it, okay? If it doesn't, you need to be cautious. So again, look out. Don't assume just because something has the SBA logo on it that it is really from the SBA. So we're already seeing these sorts of things. So you just need to be cautious for people that will, again, be trying to get information that not legitimate. Any email from the SBA will end and will come from sba.gov. Okay, sba.gov is the SBA's website, official website, and that's what everything. So if it has something, you know, if it's sba.uk, if it's sba.com, that is not the SBA you're dealing with. Okay, so make sure it has the sba.gov and the correspondence that you're getting. And then also beware, we have this one specifically listed. We've already seen many that are getting sba.help emails. Those are not legitimate. So just be cautious. Okay, next slide. So let's, again, this is a repeat of it, getting assistance. So what you would do is go to nmsbdc.org. When you go to nmsbdc.org, on the front page of the site, there you're going to have two buttons. You can click on it to get in our queue for one-on-one counseling assistance. Our counselors are business specialists. They will work with you one-on-one. They'll diagnose you know what's going on with your specific business. How many employees do you have? What is your entity? What's going on, etc. And they'll help you navigate this. And again, there's no cost for that services. Please be patient. We are dealing with enormous volume of small businesses needing assistance. We're going to get to everyone, and I have a whole team of dispatchers working to get these assigned. So we'll get to you as soon as possible. In the meantime, I do recommend that you take the training. So again, we're repeating this training over and over and over again. It is live training just like this, so that you can get your questions answered and directed. I'm trying to keep these small. So we're limiting the size to 100. Unfortunately, we haven't hit that. We haven't started marketing it, but we're getting 60 to 70 participants per class, everyone throughout the day. So you'd go on and register, get in the queue. If you don't make today's are probably getting closer to filling up. If you don't make it today, there's the ones tomorrow, and then there's the ones the next day. Okay, so go to nmsbdc.org to get in line for the help and or register for the training, just like I gave today. Okay, next slide. And that may be, and that's it. So with that, hopefully John has gotten back on to assist me with the 159 questions I see in the queue, and we'll do our best. John, did you get back on?
You should be unmuted.
Okay, so however you want to do the questions, hopefully John and we're here to participate with the other panelists to assist with these questions any way we can. So back to you.
Thanks, Russell. Thanks so much for that great information. We do have a lot of questions, so we're going to try to do our best and get through some of these. Some of them were answered during the presentations, and some of the, we might have a few repeat questions. So if the panelists could repeat the information, that might be helpful. And I am trying to unmute, I think, Secretary McKinley, I think if you could try to unmute yourself. I'm having difficulty. Okay, there you go. You're off mute. And Bob with SCORE was going to help me read some questions as well, but I will go ahead and get started. So I'm just going to start reading some of these questions that have come in on the question and answer box. And again, want to repeat, we've got about 161 questions that came in. So more than likely, we're not going to get to all of these, but we are going to be compiling these as the City of Santa Fe Economic Development Department will, and we'll put the answers up on the city's website. So one of the first questions we got was, Secretary McKinley, this one is directed at you, but if folks need special assistance for applying to unemployment, is there a resource they can go to if they need assistance with their application?
Yeah, so once again, we are really encouraging people to go online to to jobs.state.nm.us. And if you go to that website, on the top, you'll see a YouTube link to our YouTube account page. There will be a very, very good detailed step-by-step video for both how to apply and another one for how to certify. And our training people have done a really good job of making sure that all of the points people need to get are in there. People can obviously call our call center. We're trying to encourage people not to do that if they don't have to. But if they need to call, there's a number that they can get, and it's on our main website, which is dws.state.nm.us. If you want to go to that website, you'll also find some FAQs, some frequently asked questions that hopefully will answer the questions that you might have so that you don't have to call. Once again, we have a lot of people calling, but in our experience, a lot of people are calling just because they want someone to tell them that what they're doing is okay. And if there's a way to do that, to get your question answered by looking through our FAQs or visiting our online tutorials, that'd be great. The last thing I would say is that we have a chat bot feature on our jobs.state.nm.us website, as well as our DWS website. So many people can find out the answers to 15 or 20 of the most common questions that we actually get from that chat bot. It's been used about 100,000 times in the last week, and we really are trying to figure out ways of getting information out to people so where they only call in if it's a last resort.
Great, thank you. And we had another question for you too. This question has come up several times, but this is getting at if hours were cut, how do folks navigate unemployment on a partial basis?
Sure. Once again, you can apply online, but understand that you need to actually qualify for unemployment first. So you need to actually have worked in 4 out of the last 5 quarters, and you need to have hit certain wage levels during those quarters. So if you haven't done those things, you're not going to be able to get unemployment. However, if your hours are cut to an amount where you're making less than you would have gotten on unemployment. So let's say that you've been working full time for the past 18 months, you've been bringing in some good money, you should be qualified for the maximum benefit payment, which is about $460. So let's say your hours are cut to where you're making only about $300 a month. You should be able to make the difference of that up to where you could make that $160, which is the difference of, the $300 you'd be making that week versus the $460 you would normally be entitled to. So that's called partial benefits, and you can apply for those on our website. You just need to make sure when you certify every week, you disclose the benefits that you made, or excuse me, the wages that you made, so that we could get you the right benefits.
Thank you. You're on a roll. So I'm going to ask you this next question too. We had a question come in about if an employee has self-quarantined. This is kind of getting at what you just mentioned, but if an employee has self-quarantined, are they eligible? So you might just kind of repeat that.
Right. So the issue with regular unemployment is that you have to be laid off or quit under duress. So there has to be a good reason for you to quit. So if you are self-quarantining and you can show that your employer, for instance, is not, practicing social distancing or using sanitation stuff that OSHA requires, those sorts of things, we will take that under consideration, but it will be a longer process to try to adjudicate, which means process your claim. And so that's a little bit harder to answer. Traditional unemployment requires you to either be laid off or for you to quit, but then you as the person leaving shows that there was a really good reason. Usually it's things like, abuse or, wouldn't work with your schedule or things like that. So it does get kind of complicated. I will say that this week, we are introducing a what we're calling an auto adjudication program. So that process where you go through and our staff really kind of does what we call a determination to figure out, okay, who left who and does that qualify under federal rules? We're going to be actually doing that on a lot more systematic basis because we can't keep doing them one by one anymore when we've got 30 times the applications that we had 3 weeks ago.
Great, thank you. We had a number of questions come in, and Russell and John, this is kind of geared at you guys, if you're able to answer this. From folks that have Airbnbs or some type of commercial property that they're receiving income and they are operating that as a business, are they eligible to apply for some of these SBA programs to recoup lost income in that regard? And let's see if you are, we can't hear you. I think Russell, you are unmuted. And John is unmuted too.
Russell's muted.
Okay, it shows up as not. Oh, here we go. And Russell, you can unmute it yourself too. I'm not able to click on it.
There.
Okay, there.
Okay,
I
there you
am.
go.
And
All right, we can hear you now, Russell. Sorry
you
about
unmute
that.
John as well.
For some reason, my control is having a bit of difficulty. I'm not able to click on the unmute. So any panelists or others, if you can unmute yourself.
Okay, so hopefully John can get on. In regards to that question, yes, there are some places on the application. I know the IDLE does have a part on the application in regards to loss of rental income, etc. So it is our understanding at this time you could apply for those. As far as approval criteria and how they're going to approve those or wait, that we don't have that information, but I do believe that you are eligible to apply from what I understand.
Okay, great. Thank you. And another question that I've seen repeated in this the forum, and I'll do my best to relay this, but the questions are getting at, and this is specific for retail or sales. If there is no work coming in and they have laid off employees, and there's a pay reduction, how do we handle those? Do we rehire them? And I think this is more a question at getting at the PPP, Russell, if you're able to kind of take that question and offer guidance. I don't think I'm really stating it correctly, but are you able to speak to that?
I'll have to try to handle this from two lanes. One, yes, in regards to the PPP, for the payroll forgiveness, it'll be based off of head count, number of head count you had before, head count you have now, and also the salaries. We don't have, again, the guidance of the specific formula, but it is possible if you have a lower head count over that period than what you had before, that the forgiveness amount could be reduced. From a business counseling perspective, this is why you need to talk to a SCORE advisor or an SBDC advisor, because I want you to think longer term. I know you care about your employees. I know you love them and you care about them. But right now, having them on payroll with nothing to do for the next 8 weeks, if your business doesn't pick up over the next 4 months, what do you do then? So there's some tough decisions that you need to analyze and make in looking right now. Your SBDC advisor and your SCORE advisor could talk about your specific business, talk about your industry. They expect an immediate recovery or a slow recovery. You need to be thinking a little bit more long-term. So same thing with retail. So on the other side, so yes, you could rehire those positions, get them back on to be eligible for the PPP, but I do urge you caution and have a discussion with your SCORE West or SBDC advisor to think through the longer-term perspective of this before you just hire everyone back, thinking that in 2 months, all of a sudden your business will be back to where it is. Just get some info and counseling to walk through those decisions.
Thank you. And I know that you've mentioned this, Russell, but this question came up probably the numerous times in the. Can you please re-explain or reiterate? You accessed the $10,000 advance on the IDLE without a loan, and add a little bit more insight into that advance. people have some questions about that.
Russell's muted again.
Okay, Russell, if you could unmute yourself and feel free to control that. We can't hear you, Russell. If you can unmute yourself.
There, I can. Okay, if I mute myself, it doesn't allow me to unmute it, so I'll just leave it unmuted for now.
Okay.
Okay, so the idle, again, I want to clarify what I'm saying, because again, there's some data out there that I don't have clarification on. And so I'm going to say, to get the up to $10,000 advance, I don't know if it is going to be a $10,000 advance because no one's received it yet. But the language is up to $10,000 advance. To do that, you go to the SBA's website, you click on the idle, the economic injury disaster loan, that application, you complete that process, make sure you check the box for that, and then you're in the queue. Once you get that application number, you're in the queue for that up to $10,000 advance, and then you just wait. You will wait, and then they would probably make the direct deposit into your account for the amount you're approved for that. For the loan portion, probably 2 or 3 weeks later, the SBA will contact you about the loan portion of it, which would be how much are you applying for in regards to the loan. But that's what we're experiencing in regards to, they are getting follow-up for additional forms to fill out. Hopefully that answered the question.
Thank you. We had another question come in. I think this is directed at you, Secretary McKinley. Is the employer exempt from paying back unemployment benefits?
Yeah, so that's a good question. And so a couple of weeks ago, well, let me back up. The reason that question is asked is most of the employers and all of the employers on this call know that the payroll tax for unemployment is set by a formula. And part of that formula traditionally is how many people that you've laid off in the previous year. So starting on March 15th, we have waived that portion of the tax formula. Now, so there's no penalty for businesses in terms of the people that they lay off. And that process is called mutualization. And it means that everyone's pretty much going to pay a tax rate that is based off of the health of the fund, at least that portion of it from, when the public health emergency went in mid-March on. Now, we do have to worry about the health of the fund itself. It's going to get drained a lot over the next few weeks, and we're going to be monitoring what that situation is. And obviously, we'll have some discussions with the business community in the summer, hopefully when we're starting to come out of this and can have that conversation. But as of now, there is no penalty for businesses laying off folks in terms of their payroll tax rate.
Thank you. Russell, this is a question I've heard come up a few times. Can you speak to the eligibility for non-US citizens accessing the SBA programs? For example, the person asking the question has a business in Santa Fe, they paid GRT, but only has a permanent green card. Can you speak a little bit to the eligibility on that?
So the data we have on that is limited, but here's what we do know or have been told. If you're in the United States on a status that is legal, the loans would be limited to the terms based on that status. So if you've got a 2-year status, the most you could get would be a loan with 2-year terms. So that is the information that we have today.
Okay, and I think you kind of hit this in your previous answer, but numerous questions about independent contractors, no other employees, asking, is there a better option to apply for the PPP versus the EIDL? Do you want to speak to some guidance on that?
Okay. So if you are a small, what I'm going to call a micro business, it's you and a spouse or you and one other person, or it's just you. You could be a sole proprietor, or you could be an independent contractor where you're just doing work. If that's the lane you're in, probably for you, there's 2 things you want to look at. The EIDL is probably more applicable to you because the bulk of your expenses are probably going to not be payroll. They're going to be covering the payment on your work truck, et cetera. Okay. So the idle is something, again, it's a loan, but that's probably something realistically you should look at. It's got the long term on it, which will say help your business. You could also apply for the PPP, but again, it may not be practical to you depending on how your money gets spent. If the bulk of it is expenses and payroll is a small portion of it, PPP may not make a lot of sense. The other decision you're going to have to make is dealing with the unemployment side. So you're going to have, I do not know the interactions between the two, and I can't give you that advice, but the other thing you may have to examine when you're at that micro level is, does unemployment make sense for me as opposed to trying to do the idle? You'll have to make that decision. Now, I've also gotten the question of, if I get the up to $10,000 advance, how would that impact unemployment? I don't know that, and to answer that question, Secretary McKinley might have some insight, but I do know usually when you file for unemployment, they will ask you questions, I'm guessing in regards to how much you have in the bank or whatever. And so I don't know if there's an interaction that might impact your eligibility or how soon you could get the unemployment. But those are the two lanes you need to examine if you're at that micro level. Does applying for the unemployment when that door opens, is that something that would make sense for you, or the idle? The PPP could, but it just depends on your individual business situation. And your SCORE, SBDC, or West Business Advisor can help you analyze that.
Great, thanks. And another question, kind of in that same vein, this is going at the uses of the PPP. Can the PPP funds be used to pay 1099 contractors? And Russell, you're
Russell's
on.
muted again.
I don't know if that's happening automatically. Apologies. And then I again am
Russell,
not.
can you unmute yourself?
Yeah, there I am. Okay, so what's allowable use of the proceeds? Payroll cost, the costs related to the group healthcare benefits, employee salaries, commissions, or similar compensations. There are some exclusions on that. Payment of interest on mortgage obligations, rent, utilities, or interest on other debt obligations that were incurred before the period. So in looking through that, I apologize. I'm not finding that answer, and I don't want to give you wrong information on the PPP. And the reason why is, if you make a mistake on the PPP and they don't forgive it, it's a pretty big deal. So that's one I definitely would recommend you're going to probably talk to the SBA to get clarification on that one, but I don't have the answer. John might, but I don't have that right now.
Okay.
But you want to see that in writing. Make sure you see that one in writing before you spend that money on a 1099 contractor, because again, the SBA, you want to make sure that's a written rule or answer.
Great. And I know I recall seeing that in the updated information they put out yesterday. So, okay. Let's see. Secretary McKinley, we have a question also related to 1099. Is someone qualified for unemployment benefits if they have lost that 1099 income?
So Joanna, and this is probably going to be the last question I have to take. I have to do some stuff at 11:30, but the answer is you will be. So under the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Act, as I said during my presentation, it allows for self-employed folks who are 1099s to eventually apply for pandemic unemployment assistance, which is kind of a separate lane of unemployment the federal government created specifically for this. It probably won't be ready for a few more weeks. We just got rules from the federal government on how we need to implement that Sunday night at like 9 o'clock at night. So on Friday, we should be able to kind of announce a game plan for when that project should be, when that program should be open, but it'll be more towards the end of the month is kind of where we're looking at right now. But you will be able to get it. The good news, though, even though that's a couple of weeks out, is that as we're reading the rule now, you should be able to actually backdate your application for pandemic unemployment assistance into March. So if you're a 1099 employee, let's say you're a massage therapist up at 10,000 Ways, or you're a musician out at the opera, Obviously, you're a contract 1099 employee. If you kind of got your contract stopped March 17th, you should be able to backdate your application to that week and be able to receive some unemployment type compensation through those weeks of March and April when we get the program up. So that's the best answer I can give right now.
If we could, before Secretary McKinley leaves, I want to give him a personal thank you. His team is doing an incredible job under his leadership, and I thought our call volume was high. I can only imagine, again, what he's dealing with is unprecedented level, and we all owe him a great deal of gratitude and thanks for the work he's doing. So again, thank you so much.
Thank you very much for that.
Thank you for participating today. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody. Everybody keep your heads up, all right?
Okay.
Thank you. Great. And Bob, if you have any questions, I've tried to do my best to summarize the majority of some of these repeat questions. So if you have any.
Well, several questions concerning how long does it take to find out when you've made an application? How long should you expect to take before they get back to you?
Okay. It depends on which program you're talking about. If you're talking about the PPP program, it could take a while. All right. The actual application process and approval from the SBA, there's guidance, but you have the lender involved. So when you apply to the lender has their own processes that have to be played out. Whether they take it to 3 people go through the approval, or they take it to their or a board, however that lender has their approval process set up. Then it has to go through the SBA approval all of those things occur. So I can't really give you an answer on that from the PPP side because it will vary depending on the lender and what they've got in place. I am telling people it may take a while right now because of the guidance things. So don't expect that PPP is going to get approved in the next day or two. Some banks may be able to pull that off. Others, it may take 30 plus days. So just be patient. In regards to the EIDL, and so again, hopefully John can get connected on because I'd love John's support on this. In regards to the EIDL, when you apply, you're just applying for the advance. So when they contact you for follow-up is really when they're starting the processing of the EIDL loan application. That could take 2 to 3 weeks before you get a response on that loan portion. And then I don't know the actual approval process after that, whether we're talking another week or 2 or immediate. It's unknown at this time.
Thank you. There are a number of questions too on further clarification of who can apply for PPP, specifically independent contractors, the people who are themselves self-employed. So if we can maybe touch again on who can apply for the PPP.
Okay, so if you have to have been in operation. So if you were a business and you were in operation on February 15th, 2020, okay, if you were in business at that time as an independent contractor, right, then you could apply. You could be a sole proprietor and apply for the PPP. You could be an independent contractor or some other status of a self-employed individual and be eligible to apply for the PPP. So you are eligible to apply for the PPP in that status or the EIDL. But you'll have to analyze which of the two makes sense based on your expenses, based on how you spend, where your money normally goes.
We also had a question, can someone apply for PPP and EIDL both?
Yes, so you can apply for both the EIDL and the PPP. Here's the key. You can't pay for the same expenses out of both. So you can't say, I need this much, I need my payroll money when I apply for the PPP and I need my payroll money for the EIDL because you can't cover the same. So, but you can have an EIDL, you can have a PPP. You can also have an EIDL and the EIDL can be refinanced into a PPP. So you can have an EIDL loan, but then you go to your local lender and say, could I apply to refinance my EIDL into the PPP through your bank?
Okay. Are there any restrictions on owner compensation? Any
Yes. So,
limitations?
well, the trick here is going to be, there is a restriction, and if I am correct, I believe it is, this is in regards to the payroll or compensation. And I believe the compensation limit is compensation over 100,000. So this is, if you've got the, in regards to payroll, if you're paying an employee over $100,000, then you're going to have, it's not going to be eligible. But in regards to owner paying themselves, it would depend on the individual situation. So different entities pay themselves different ways. So if you're an LLC, you might be taking a draw, or you may be paying yourself as an employee. So that's a unique question that's unique to each business, and that would be something that you would talk to your accountant or your tax attorney for that information, and the SBA also could provide that assistance as well.
Okay. Russell, if you have employees and you discharge one employee for cause, but then you hire someone else, does that have an impact on the PPP?
Right now, again, there's not, all this written guidance doesn't exist other than what we're interpreting, what we've seen. We believe it really is based on positions. So again, if you had 10 positions and you have to, you let one of your employees, the person, go because they stole money or something, and you replace that position, you hire someone else for that position that existed. To our interpretation, yes, you'd be okay because it's the number of positions or the total payroll cost, not the particular person.
Okay, so it's head count and total compensation.
Yes.
Okay.
And the key, we had some that asked, well, what if I add a new position? And I said, we don't have an answer to that. Like if you're going to make it 11 positions now, we don't know how they would interpret that. We don't have that answer, but so that clarifies it.
If someone has an SBA loan, EIDL or PPP, and they pay off early, is there a prepayment penalty?
No. So there is no prepayment penalty for either.
Okay. There's also a question, EIDL, the advance. If an applicant has a criminal history, does having a criminal record disqualify them?
So this is a bit of an unknown right now. All I can tell you is traditionally, right? The traditional economic injury disaster loan program or an SBA guarantee program, when you fill out the actual full application, they will ask about criminal, like, have you ever been arrested, et cetera. What we've always told clients historically is they need to fill that out completely, honestly, and accurately. Then the SBA will make the decision. So what that means is the SBA would look at the context of the situation to make the decision on that. So that's what we've always seen. We don't know for this particular item who they would qualify or disqualify. So the advice we're giving is fill out those forms honestly and accurately, the questions, and then the SBA should follow up to ask you the guidance, because there's no one that can tell you whether you would actually get, if you're eligible, you can apply. As long as you fill out if you can answer all the questions on that form, you are by definition eligible. But whether they would approve it or not, only the SBA will know that, and we'd have to wait and see. So I'd go ahead and apply if you can answer all the questions on the form with that status, and then wait for the SBA decision on it.
Okay. For EIDL loans, or I think probably PPP as well, if the company is a seasonal operation, so they don't have permanent employees, and the payroll question, how do they answer the questions about the number of employees?
Okay, so the U.S. Treasury this morning, I just got this morning from the U.S. Treasury. Let me scroll down and see what their guidance was. One moment. Okay, so I'm going to read to you what they say. They got a question that said, my small business is a seasonal business whose activity increases from April to June. Considering activity from that period, would be a more accurate reflection of my business's operations. However, my small business was not fully ramped up on February 15th. Am I still eligible? The answer that they provided was, this is to the lender. So this was the Treasury giving the guidance to the bank, okay? They said in evaluating a borrower's eligibility, a lender may consider whether a seasonal borrower was in operation on February 15th for an 8-week period between February 15th, 20. So I know that's not exactly what was asked, but my interpretation is that they are beginning to take they are in some format taking into consideration businesses that operate seasonally. So to the best of my, yes, it would probably be considered or taken into consideration, but I don't know exactly how at this stage.
Okay. There's another one, the PPP slides were 26 states headcount. It says most retail service employees are part-time. So how do I apply the headcount? How do I handle document any employees who refuse to return to work for a payroll offer?
Whew. Well, this is a tough question. This is a tough question we've been dealing with because of what they passed for unemployment. In theory, it is very possible that you have an employee that could be making more or significantly more on unemployment than what you paid them, okay? And therefore, that individual may not have any incentive to actually go back and take the position when you offer it to them. So you may have laid off somebody and they go take unemployment and now they're making the equivalent of $15, $16 an hour, or 15 bucks an hour, and you were only paying them 10, and then you want them to come back. Would they choose to do so? So that is a challenge we're facing. I don't know, and that is something you need to consider when you're applying to make sure that you can fill those positions back. Because, and maybe you talk to those employees that you're considering, because again, I can't answer that question other than, yes, you may have challenges getting some employees to choose to leave unemployment to come back to your business.
Okay. There's a question too. What if your employees are long-term contract employees, not on salary? Do you count those?
So the key here would be depending on how you pay them. If they are contracted, if you pay them if you give them a 1099, okay, they are independent contractors. They're not your employees. So if you're giving them a 1099, they are eligible for these programs themselves. They can go, if then they're an independent contractor, and as an independent contractor, they can go apply for the economic injury disaster loan, the up to 10,000 advance, or that loan, or the PPP, or the unemployment. So if you're paying 1099, their contractors are not your employees technically, and then they're eligible on their own.
Okay. Pretty well ran through. We're going to address some more of these questions too, and we'll post them. But why don't we wrap things? Rich, are you on? Rich Brown?
Yes, I'm just unmuted. Thank you, Johanna.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Yeah, great. Well, thanks, Johanna, and thanks to our featured speakers, SCORE, the county, and our economic development team. I believe they shared some important insight on what small businesses and nonprofit organizations can do to take advantage of the state and federal assistance during this health and economic crisis. If you qualify, I implore you to take time today to apply for the EIDL and PPP programs. As you know, our partners at SBDC, shout out to Russell there, SCORE and West are available to assist in this process. Our city's small business growth manager, Fabian Trujillo, is also available to answer any questions. I would also like to announce that Falling Colors, a tech company located downtown, has launched a small business bridge relief fund. This fund will provide up to $300 a month for 3 months to up to 200 Santa Fe County owned and operated businesses with revenue of no more than $100,000 a year. To learn more and apply, go to fallingcolors.com and click on the FC Foundation button in the upper corner. So you know this is a lot of important information to absorb and figure out what's best for your organization. We're planning more of these webinars in the coming weeks, just to make sure you have the right tools for your business to survive. And as we close this seminar and this webinar, I'd like you to know that our economy will bounce back. We will if we make a concerted effort to stay safe and stop the spread of this virus. Currently, there's no vaccine to prevent infection, so remember, wash your hands often with soap and water for at least 20 seconds. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Wear a face mask, even cloth if you have it, if you're out in public. And I'd like to shout out a small business, Alterations and More. We're making face masks for sale. Stay home when you're sick. Avoid touching your face, eyes, nose, or mouth with unwashed hands. Cover your cough and sneeze with a tissue and throw that tissue in the trash. And clean and disinfect frequently touched objects and surfaces. That's it. We wish you well and hope that our panel has conveyed that there are resources available now to help you survive in this uncertain time. Please check our community website, alltogethersantafe.org. Again, alltogethersantafe.org, all one word, to learn more about our resources that are available for you. If you have one to share, there's a form at the bottom of the website to submit your entry. Thank you and stay safe. Johanna, there you go.
All right, thank you so much, Rich. Again, thank you for putting this presentation together. And I want to remind everyone that this presentation will be available on the city's website. The recording will be available on YouTube, and they also will be posting an FAQ of some of the questions that we weren't quite able to answer during the session. So again, thank you all so much. Reach out. Anything that the State Economic Development Department can do, please communicate, keep that line of communication open, and let me know, reach out personally.
Might also add there will be a PDF version, which we have, and we'll be sending those out to the people who've registered. So if you did not have a chance to look at the slide long enough, examine the PDF. You'll be able to find it.
Thank you, and thanks, Bob, for putting this
Yeah.
together.
Thank you all.